Hello and welcome. As you settle in, you might notice the gentle weight of the blankets around you, the familiar shape of your pillow, the way your body slowly begins to sink into the mattress. This is your time now, your little pocket of quiet at the end of a long day. Nothing is urgent here. Nothing needs to be fixed or solved. You're allowed to simply be. You may have carried a lot today. Thoughts, responsibilities, small worries, they stacked like tiny stones in the back of your mind. Maybe you've been moving from one task to the next, or maybe it was a quieter day on the outside but a busy one in your thoughts. Whatever kind of day you've had, it can set itself down now. It doesn't have to disappear all at once. It can just gently melt at its own slow pace like snow softening in the first morning light. Tonight, we're going to wander together through the universe, but not in a loud or overwhelming way. Think of it less like a science lecture and more like a series of bedtime stories. One soft story at a time. The universe is a calm library of light and time, and you, lying there, are simply listening from a cozy corner. The stories we'll visit are gentle. We will move slowly. If anything feels big or complex, we'll cradle it in simple images and easy comparisons, like holding glowing marble in your hand instead of trying to grasp an entire galaxy at once. And all through this, you don't need to stay fully awake. You don't need to remember what we talk about. You're free to drift in and out, to let your mind wander away and come back in its own rhythm. If you fall asleep, that's not a problem at all. That's actually the point. The words will keep flowing quietly in the background, and you can float on them as much or as little as you like. If this kind of gentle, sleepy science feels comforting to you, you're always welcome to come back here again or to explore more of these soft journeys. It supports this little space we're creating together. But even that is not something to worry about now. For now, all that matters is that you're here, resting. Let's invite your body to relax a little more. If it feels comfortable, you can let your attention move to your breathing. There's no need to change anything right away. Just notice that you are breathing. Air comes in, air goes out, a quiet tide flowing in and out of the shore of your lungs. Now, if it feels okay, you might gently lengthen the next breath in, just a little deeper, like you're smelling something warm and comforting. And as you breathe out, imagine the air carrying away a bit of the day, tiny, invisible grains of tension leaving your body. In your own time, take another slow breath in. Feel your chest or your belly rise softly, the way a calm wave rolls up a quiet beach, and then let that breath fall away, long and easy, like the wave sliding back down into the sea. One more time, very gently, or breathing in, letting the breath expand you just a little, and breathing out, a soft release, as if each exhale is loosening an invisible knot somewhere inside. You don't have to keep focusing on your breath if you don't want to. It's more like a soft background rhythm now, steady and kind, keeping you company in the dark. If you notice any tightness in your body, you can visit it with your attention, the way you might visit a friend, maybe your shoulders, maybe your jaw, maybe the place between your eyebrows. Imagine those places bathed in a warm light like liquid gold, slowly melting the tension. Your shoulders dropping a few millimeters deeper into the pillow, your jaw unclenching, even the tiny muscles around your eyes softening, as if they are finally off duty. You might make a tiny adjustment, shifting a leg, tucking an arm under the pillow, pulling the blanket a little closer. Let your bed feel like a soft landscape that welcomes your weight, shaping itself around you, holding you securely. You are supported. You don't have to hold yourself up. Gravity is doing the quiet work for you now. In your mind's eye, imagine a soft light somewhere near the center of your chest. It doesn't have to be bright. Maybe it's just a pale glow, like moonlight reflecting on calm water. With each breath, See if you can let that light expand a little bit, like a slow blooming lantern. It spreads through your chest, down your arms, pooling in your hands. It glows down your spine into your legs, all the way to your feet. Warm, gentle, unhurried. Anything heavy from your day can rest in that light for a while, as if you've set your thoughts down on a little cloud that floats just beside you. You can pick them up again tomorrow if you need them. For now, your mind is free to wander, to listen, or to drift away. Tonight's journey is about the universe, but we will approach it like a quiet path through a forest. One step at a time, pausing often, looking up through the branches, noticing the patterns of light and shadow. You are not here to study. You're not here to perform. You're here to be gently carried. So if you like, you can imagine that instead of lying in your room, you're lying outside under a wide, soft night sky. You feel the ground underneath you, solid and cool but cushioned, as if you're resting on moss or a thick blanket of grass. Above you, the sky stretches like a deep velvet canopy, sprinkled with stars. Not in a harsh way, not like bright spotlights, but like tiny pinpricks of silver woven into dark fabric. There might be a faint, distant sound of crickets somewhere in this imagined night, a quiet, repeating song marking the slow passage of time. Perhaps you feel a mild, cool breeze brushing your skin, not cold, just enough to remind you that the air is alive, gently flowing around you. The moon, if you choose to imagine it, hangs somewhere in that sky, maybe just a thin crescent, soft and subtle. Its light is spilled across the landscape in pale streaks, like gentle brushstrokes of silver. The shadows it paints are not sharp, but blurry and kind. As you lie there, your breathing finds a rhythm that matches the night, slow, easy, like the rise and fall of distant hills, in and out, in and out. The air tastes fresh and clean, as if it has travelled a long way to reach you. Around you, the sounds and silences blend into a peaceful backdrop. You might imagine the rustle of leaves, the distant murmur of some hidden stream, or perhaps a vast, soothing quiet, where each small sound feels like it's wrapped in cotton. You look up at the stars. Some are brighter, some are faint, barely there, like memories at the edge of sleep. If you linger on one star, you might imagine it as a tiny story glowing far away. Then another star, another story, a sky full of stories, all burning softly in the dark. If you let your awareness zoom out a little, you might picture yourself not just lying under the sky, but resting on a small, round world, spinning slowly through space. Your bed, your room, your imagined field beneath the stars, all of it nestled on the surface of a planet turning gently in the dark. The universe can feel enormous when we think about it. It can feel like too much. But here, under this calm sky, we'll explore it slowly, in pieces, like turning the pages of a very quiet book. Each star, each swirl of light, each faint glow in the distance is a chapter. And tonight, we will visit some of these chapters, but gently with the same softness as this night air. The universe is not just vast, it can also be tender when we approach it like this. Not rushing, not demanding clear answers, just observing, wondering, drifting. And remember, you do not have to keep track of where we are in the story. If at any point your mind floats away, maybe into a dream, that's perfectly okay. The universe will still be here. The stories will wait. You're safe to drift. Let's start at the beginning. Everything you know has a beginning. A day begins with a thin, pale line of light on the horizon. A song begins with a single note, A river begins from a tiny spring, a small trickle of water threading its way downhill. Even the quiet moment you're in now had a beginning, the decision to lie down, to press play, to allow yourself some rest. So it is with the universe. Scientists have spent many years, many lives, piecing together clues about how everything started. The story they tell, the one we'll share tonight, is sometimes called a big dramatic name, but in our version it is less like an explosion and more like the soft, sudden moment when a seed decides to open. Imagine for a moment that everything, the stars, the galaxies, the empty spaces between them, even time itself, was once gathered into something unimaginably small. Not just small like a pebble in your hand, not just small like a grain of sand, but so small that it slips right past your usual idea of size. It was also very hot and very dense, a kind of concentrated everything all pressed together. You don't need to picture this precisely, just sense it as a warm, glowing seed containing all the possibilities of the universe. Then in a moment that seed began to unfold. Not with a violent crash in space, but as space itself stretching, expanding, making room, like a flower bud slowly opening its petals, except it was not opening into anything. It was creating the space it needed as it grew. In the very first instance, things were happening far too quickly, and at temperatures far too high for anything like atoms, or stars, or planets. It was more like a shimmering ocean of energy, where the ingredients that would one day form familiar matter were still mingled together. If that feels abstract, you can think of it as a thick, warm fog of possibility, glowing from within, a newborn universe that has not yet sorted itself out into distinct things. As time passed, even just fractions of a second at first, that smooth, hot fog began to cool and spread. Imagine dough rising, expanding, the way it slowly fills the bowl, pushing outward as tiny bubbles form inside. The early universe stretched in a similar way, swelling and expanding, all the while cooling bit by bit. Within this expanding space, energy turned into particles, the tiny building blocks that would one day make up everything familiar. These first particles were like the alphabet of the cosmos, simple letters that could combine to write more complex stories later on. You don't need to remember their names. It's enough to imagine that as the universe expanded, it was quietly assembling its own language. Tiny pieces coming together, drifting apart, trying out connections. As the expansion continued and the temperature fell, some of those tiny particles began to pair up, forming the simplest atoms, mostly hydrogen with a touch of helium. The universe, in its earliest clear form, was like a vast, gently cooling sea of this simple gas, spreading out in all directions. Nothing like stars or galaxies yet. No suns to light the darkness. Just a growing dim ocean of atoms, like a mist filling an ever larger room. And within this mist, there was still a haze of light. At first, light couldn't travel freely. The particles were so close together, so energetic, that light kept bumping and scattering, like trying to walk through a crowded, foggy room, where every step brings you to another person, gently turning you around. But over time, hundreds of thousands of years of time, which for the universe is still early morning, that mist cooled enough that light could finally move more freely. The fog thinned. The room opened up. You can imagine the universe taking its first clear breath, exhaling a soft glow in all directions. That glow is still with us today, stretched and cooled by the ongoing expansion. Astronomers call it a cosmic afterglow, a faint whisper of warmth that fills the entire sky. It is as if the universe has a baby picture, an old photograph from when it was very young, and that picture is made of this ancient light, still travelling, still arriving, still wrapping everything in a faint, invisible embrace. Thinking about this, you might notice your own breath again, in and out, a quiet rhythm. In your chest, air comes and goes, while on a much grander scale, the universe itself expands and changes, like a slow, vast breath of space. There's something comforting about beginnings, even when they are enormous. When you start a new notebook, the first page feels clean and full of potential. When dawn first lightens the sky, the day hasn't yet decided what it will be. In the same way, the early universe was full of potential, but still simple, still mostly uniform, like a calm grey sea before any waves appear. But even in that calm sea, there were tiny variations, tiny imperfections, slightly denser spots, slightly emptier spots, like gentle ripples on otherwise still water. These small uneven places, these subtle differences, would grow over billions of years into the structures we see now. Galaxies, stars, planets, and us. If you like, you can imagine those tiny, denser regions as almost imperceptible swirls in a vast cloud. Gravity, the gentle, persistent pull that draws masses together, would slowly tug more matter into those swirls. Over immense stretches of time, those faint ripples would deepen, becoming places where things could gather, clump, and eventually ignite into light. From such a simple beginning, a nearly uniform sea with soft ripples. The universe began writing more intricate chapters. But in these early pages, everything's still very quiet. No stars are shining yet. No planets are spinning. Only the wide, expanding ocean of space, cooling and waiting for the next step. As you lie there, maybe with your eyes closed, you can let this image settle around you. A universe that started from something small and dense and warm, expanding and softening, forming a gentle fog of atoms and a pale echo of light. There's no need to hold the details tightly. You might simply keep the feeling of it, the sense that everything big, everything complex, everything bright, once passed through a stage of simplicity, a blank page, a quiet breath before the song begins. You also had a beginning. Before every memory you carry, before every habit or worry, there was a tiny, simple you forming slowly. Cells dividing and organizing, following patterns far older than any one life. You emerged from your own kind of warm, protective universe, carried forward by processes you didn't control or direct. In that way, you and the cosmos share a theme. You are both stories that began simply and unfolded over time. Sometimes, when life feels too crowded, too complex, it can help to remember that everything complicated grew from something very simple. That every tangle of thoughts once began as a single feeling, a single moment. And just as the universe did not rush its unfolding, you do not have to rush your understanding or your growth. The universe took billions of years to arrive at the starry night you can imagine above you. You are allowed to take your time with whatever you're facing. You are allowed to put things down for a while and rest. In this resting, you are not doing nothing. You are returning in a small way to that simple state where you do not have to solve, decide, or perform. You are just breathing in a quiet room on a quiet planet, in a universe that has always been changing, always evolving, one slow chapter at a time. If your mind wanders now, following some stray thought or half dream, let it. Just as those early ripples in the universe grew into something new, your thoughts can drift and reshape themselves while you rest. You don't have to guide them. They can float, like dust motes in a beam of light. Somewhere in that vast early universe, tiny variations were gathering under the watchful pull of gravity, preparing eventually to become stars. But here, where you are, you don't need to hurry ahead to that part of the story. For now, you might simply imagine that glowing seed of everything unfolding slowly, quietly, in a darkness that is not frightening but full of possibility. You might imagine the faint afterglow of that early light brushing against your skin, a reminder that you are made from the same story. You're lying under a sky that is, in a sense, a memory. Each star, each faint glow, is a relic of how the universe has been unfolding since that first, soft beginning. You're part of this story, but you don't have to carry the whole plot. You can just rest in the feeling that you belong here, in this chapter, at this moment, on this small world turning under the stars. If you are still awake, you can notice your breath again, gentle and quiet. If you are already drifting, caught between waking and sleep, that is perfectly okay. The universe will keep its stories for you, and we can visit more of them as you float along. For now, it is enough to know that everything, from galaxies to quiet nights like this one, began as something simple, a soft beginning, holding the promise of all that would follow. If you're still here with me, awake or half awake, you can let yourself settle a little deeper now. You've already walked through the very first part of the universe's story, that soft beginning where everything was simple and warm and full of potential. You don't need to hold on to the details of that. They can fade like a dream you only half remember. All that matters is the feeling that everything big and complex once started as something small and quiet. If your body has shifted since we started, that's perfectly fine. Maybe you found an even more comfortable position without really thinking about it. Notice how the mattress supports you, how your pillow cradles your head. If there's any last bit of tension clinging to your shoulders or your forehead, you can let it know, gently, that it doesn't have to stay. You can imagine it loosening with your next exhale, as if your breath is the tide, and every out-breath takes a little more strain back out to sea. You don't need to concentrate. You don't need to listen closely. It's okay to let my words become a kind of background sound like distant waves or soft rain. You're allowed to drift in and out, to catch only fragments of this story. Your mind can wander where it wants to go. The universe is patient. It will still be here. We've spoken about the universe as a warm, expanding fog of simple atoms, a quiet sea slowly preparing for something new. Now we might move forward in that story to something you already know very well, even if you've never thought about it in scientific terms. We'll talk about stars. You've seen them, even if only once or twice. Tiny points of light scattered across a dark sky, some bright, some faint, some almost invisible unless you stare for a while. Maybe at some point in your life you've looked out of a window late at night and noticed a single star, hovering above a rooftop or sitting just over the outline of a tree. There's a particular feeling that comes with that moment, isn't there? A sense of quiet company. The star doesn't speak, doesn't move, but it's there, steady and patient. If you like, you can imagine yourself back under that wide night sky again. You're lying on your back or maybe sitting propped up in bed, with the curtains slightly open. Somewhere in that slice of sky, one star is especially clear. It doesn't flicker dramatically. It just glows. A small, steady lantern in the distance. What is that star really? In everyday life, it might just be a dot of light, something easy to overlook. But if we slow down and let curiosity move at a gentle pace, that little point of light becomes its own soft story. Far, far away, in distances so large we measure them in years of light, there is a huge sphere of gas burning quietly. Not burning like a wildfire, not roaring, but glowing from the inside out, powered by a deep, steady process. The light that reaches your eyes now, or the light you remember from some night in your past, left that star years ago, traveling through space, crossing unimaginable distances just to arrive in that single quiet moment with you. Before stars existed, the universe was mostly that simple sea of hydrogen and helium spread out almost evenly. But almost is an important word. Those tiny ripples and uneven places in the cosmic sea, the slightly denser patches, were where gravity began its gentle work. You can picture it this way. Imagine a vast cloud of delicate dust and gas drifting in space. It's cold and dark, and to our eyes it might look like a shadow against the background stars. This cloud is called a nebula, and you can think of it as a kind of cradle. Inside it, tiny particles feel the soft tug of gravity, pulling them ever so slowly toward each other. Gravity doesn't hurry. It doesn't rush. It simply persists, time after time, moment after moment. Over millions of years, the densest parts of that cloud gather more and more material. Little by little, the cradle folds inward. The cloud might swirl and twist like a slow-motion whirlpool in water, but everything about it is on a scale of time far beyond our own. If you imagine that nebula now, in your mind, you could picture it like a great blanket of mist in space, woven out of dust and gas. Gravity is like a pair of invisible hands, gently drawing threads of that blanket together, stitching them into clumps. Inside those clumps, particles move faster and bump into each other more often, and the temperature begins to rise. You might picture those particles as tiny, sleepy fireflies as drifting in the dark. At first, they're spread out, wandering slowly, but as gravity pulls them inward, more and more of them gather into the same region. Their paths cross, they jostle, they swirl, and the center of this gathering becomes denser and warmer, like the very heart of a cloud. You don't have to remember any specific numbers or stages. It's enough to imagine that inside every star there was once a long, patient process of gathering. A quiet, invisible meeting of dust and gas, drawn together over immense stretches of time, like 1,000 small streams slowly joining to form a river. Eventually, when enough material has been pulled into the center, the pressure and heat become intense. Deep in that core, atoms of hydrogen begin to press so closely together that they transform. They merge and change into helium, releasing energy in the process. This is what we call nuclear fusion, but you can think of it simply as the star's heartbeat. Each T-act of fusion is like a small spark of warmth, and there are countless such sparks happening every second in the heart of a star. Together, they push back against the inward pull of gravity, creating a balance. The star is held between these two gentle forces, gravity pulling inward, fusion pushing outward. The result is stability, a long life spent glowing. From far away, all you see is the light, a point in the sky, but that steady glow is telling you that inside that star, a quiet, powerful dance is continuing second after second, year after year, and age after age. The star becomes a lantern in the darkness, not just for itself, but for anything near it, for planets if they form, for any wandering dust that passes through its light, and for any creatures, like you, who happen to look up at the right moment from a distant world and notice. Our own sun is a star like this. It might feel different to you because we see it so close, bright enough to light our days and warm our skin. But underneath that brightness is the same kind of object as the tiny stars you see at night. A sphere of gas held together by gravity, glowing from the energy of fusion in its core. The sun has been burning quietly for billions of years, a slow, steady fire that doesn't flicker much from our point of view. It has seen countless sunrises and sunsets on Earth, countless nights like this span, and it will continue for a very long time to come, offering its warmth and light without asking anything in return. There's something reassuring about that, isn't there? The idea that above the shifting details of our days, our schedules, our anxieties, our small triumphs and disappointments, there is a constant presence in the sky burning steadily, even when you can't see it because it's night where you are, or because the clouds are thick. It's still there on the other side, shining. Other stars have their own lives and timelines. Some are much smaller than the sun and burn more slowly, with a quieter, cooler light, like embers that last far longer than a bright blaze. Some are much bigger, hotter and brighter, shining intensely but for a shorter time, like a candle that uses up its wax quickly. Yet even the shorter lives of the largest stars stretch across millions of years. A single human lifetime with all its events fits in as a thin slice within that. It can make our worries feel very small, not in a dismissive way, but in a gentle, freeing way. The universe doesn't rush. Stars don't hurry. They do what they do in their own time. As you lie there, you might think of stars as old friends scattered across the sky. Some are older than our sun, some younger, each at a different chapter of its story. Some have only recently ignited, moving out of their nebula cradles and into the open cosmic night. Others are in middle age, content and stable. A few are nearing their end, preparing to change into something new, but none of that needs to feel frightening. Change on these scales is simply part of the ebb and flow of matter and energy. A star that reaches the end of its fuel transforms, often returning its material to space and seeding new clouds with heavy elements that can eventually form new stars, new planets, perhaps even new beings who might one day look up and wonder, just as you do. In that sense, the universe recycles itself like a cosmic garden that continually sheds leaves and blossoms anew. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen you breathe, these elements were forged in stars that lived and died long before our sun existed. You carry within you a record of those ancient fires, a quiet inheritance of light. When you look at a star, you're not just seeing the present. You're seeing a faint echo of long processes, long lives, long transformations that gave rise to what you are. It's as if in your very body there are whispers of distant stars thanking you for noticing them. And if that thought begins to feel too big, you can always return to something simpler. The image of a single star seen from bed, or through a window, or from an imagined field beneath the sky. Just one soft point of light, steady and reliable, watching over you as you fall asleep. If your eyes are closed right now, you might picture that tiny light floating gently in the darkness behind your eyelids. It doesn't need to be sharp, it can be blurry like a smudge of glow. Maybe it pulses softly in time with your breath, in as the light grows a little, out as it dims, like a lantern breathing with you. You are in this moment very small compared to the universe, but you are also deeply connected to it. You're made of the same kinds of atoms that stars use for their light. You are a piece of the universe that has become aware, that can rest, that can feel tired, that can find comfort in understanding just a little bit of where it all comes from. And stars are not alone in the night. If your mind zooms out from that one point of light, it may begin to gather many of them at once, forming patterns, swirls, and great luminous structures. On a very dark night, away from city lights, you might see a hazy band stretching across the sky, a pale, misty river of light. It looks almost like clouds, but finer and more delicate. This is what we call the Milky Way, our home galaxy, though from the ground it simply appears as a faint glow. Galaxies are gatherings of stars on a vast, breathtaking scale. Hundreds of billions of stars, dust and gas and dark matter bound together by gravity, swirling in different shapes. When you hear hundreds of billions, your mind may not be able to truly picture it. That's okay, you don't have to. Just know that it means a lot, more than you could count in many lifetimes. Different galaxies have different forms. Some are spirals, with graceful arms stretching out from a central bulge like pinwheels or seashells. Others are more like smooth, round clouds, which we call elliptical galaxies. There are irregular ones too, misshapen and asymmetrical, like clouds caught in a breeze. The shapes might sound complicated, but they arise naturally from the long, patient pull of gravity acting over time. Imagine a huge, gentle whirlpool in space, drawing stars into curved paths around the center. This whirlpool is not violent. It's stately, slow, unfolding over millions and billions of years. The stars move in giant orbits, like dancers circling a central stage, and from far away, their paths trace out the patterns we see as spiral arms. Gravity is the quiet sculptor here. You might think of it as an invisible guide that encourages stars to move in certain ways, to gather in certain places. It doesn't shout or shove. It pulls steadily, persistently, creating the structure out of scattered light. Our own galaxy, the Milky Way, is a spiral or barred spiral shape with curving arms filled with stars, gas, and dust. Somewhere inside one of those arms, tucked away not too close to the center and not too far out, our sun travels in its orbit, bringing Earth and the other planets along with it. If you imagine the Milky Way as a vast, slowly spinning disk of light, you could think of our solar system as a small boat on a quiet, rotating sea. We circle the galactic center over hundreds of millions of years, tracing a huge, elongated path. While our world spins daily, giving us night and day, and orbits the sun yearly, giving us seasons, that deeper galactic motion continues, almost unnoticed, like a background current. This galaxy is our cosmic neighborhood. When you look up and see the hazy band of the Milky Way, you are seeing a thin slice of the disk from the inside, like looking edge-on at a luminous, dusty ring. The individual stars your eyes can pick out are nearby neighbors, while the faint glow comes from countless distant stars blending together. There's a kind of cozy feeling in that, if you let it settle in. You're not just floating alone in an empty void. You live in a galaxy, a vast but structured community of stars. You, your room, your bed, your thoughts, all are situated within this larger, gently rotating city of light. And this galaxy is just one among many. There are other galaxies drifting through space, some relatively close, others unimaginably far away. Some are gently passing by, others are interacting, their shapes tugged and stretched by mutual gravity. From our vantage point, with our instruments, we can see them as tiny smudges and spirals, as if the sky is dusted with faint, distant islands. But you don't have to picture all of them. It's enough to know that our Milky Way is part of a larger pattern, like one tree among many in a forest. The forest is beautiful, but when you're lying on the ground, it's okay to focus on just one branch above you, one patch of leaves, one small patch of sky between them. Right now, your patch of the universe includes your own breath, your own thoughts, the softness of your blanket, and the faint mental picture of stars and galaxies floating peacefully in the dark. You're allowed to just rest inside that patch, feeling the quiet presence of the greater cosmos, without trying to grasp all of it at once. If you're still awake, you might feel a slight sense of calm curiosity, a gentle wondering about these enormous structures and the forces that shape them. If you're drifting off, the words might already be blending into something softer, like the low, continuous murmur of a river at night. Either way, you're held by your bed, by gravity, by the familiar pull of Earth, by the light of a star we call the sun, all nested inside a galaxy that turns slowly in the dark. You don't have to do anything with that knowledge. You don't have to make it meaningful or productive. It can simply be a lullaby made of facts and images, stars forming in nebula cradles, glowing with a steady heartbeat of fusion, gathering into spirals and swirls under the patient guidance of gravity. You are part of that same universe. You are one soft story among many, unfolding at your own pace. And as you rest, the stars keep shining, the galaxies keep turning, and the universe continues one soft story at a time. If you're still here with me, somewhere between awake and asleep, you can let yourself soften again around the edges. You don't need to remember everywhere we've been so far. Maybe you recall a little about the universe beginning as something small and warm, unfolding like a slow cosmic flower. Maybe a few images of stars forming in quiet nebula cradles, glowing like lanterns in the dark. Maybe the thought of our Milky Way galaxy turning slowly, a great city of light with our sun tucked inside one of its arms. Or maybe it's all already drifting away like mist, and only a vague feeling of calm remains. All of that is perfectly okay. The universe is big enough to hold your fading thoughts, and patient enough to tell the story again another night if it needs to. Take a moment to notice your body again, the way your weight settles into the mattress, the way your pillow meets the shape of your head. If your hands are tense, you can unclench them, letting your fingers curl in a more relaxed way. If your jaw is tight, you might let your tongue rest softly on the floor of your mouth and let the muscles around your cheeks release, as if they're sighing in relief. Every exhale is still an opportunity to let go of something tiny. You don't even have to know what it is. Just imagine that each breath out carries away a fraction of the day, grain by grain, until all that's left is you, resting in a quiet night. We have floated among stars and galaxies, and it's already a lot to hold in the mind. So now, for a while, let's come closer to home. Because in this great swirling galaxy of ours, one star, our sun, has a small family, a tiny neighborhood of worlds circling around it, each with its own character. This is our solar system, and even though it's only a small part of the universe, it is the part that cradles you as you sleep. You might start with the most familiar thing of all, the ground beneath you, even if you can't feel it directly. Beneath your bed, beneath your floor, beneath layers of stone and soil and slow-moving water, there is a whole planet, round, turning, wrapped in air and clouds. You are resting on Earth, a kind of floating island of rock and ocean orbiting the sun. If you imagine Earth from far away, you might see it as a small blue and white marble drifting in dark space. Swirls of cloud, deep blue oceans, patches of green and brown land. There is something very gentle in that view. From space, all the sharp edges of our daily lives are smoothed out. No crowded streets, no noisy screens, no towering buildings, just a soft, glowing sphere lit by sunlight. On that sphere there are forests, deserts, mountains, rivers, and cities. There are countless lives, each with its own stories and thoughts. And right now, one of those lives is you, lying quietly only, listening to the story of the universe and allowing yourself to rest. The air you breathe has been part of many other breaths before, drifting across oceans, brushing the tops of trees, flowing down from high mountains and over wide plains. There is a kind of comfort in that, knowing that you are part of the same moving, living system as everything around you. Earth orbits the sun in a nearly circular path, taking about a year to complete one loop. You can imagine this as a slow, graceful dance. The sun at the center, shining steadily, and Earth moving around it with calm, regular steps. As Earth turns on its axis, you experience day and night. As it moves around the sun and its axis tilts, you experience the changing seasons. These patterns are like a quiet clock, marking time not with ticks and alarms, but with longer days and shorter nights, with warmer breezes and colder winds, with leaves growing and falling. Earth is our comforting anchor in space. It is familiar even if we rarely think of it as a planet. When you feel overwhelmed, you can always picture that small blue world, silently turning, doing what it has done for billions of years, regardless of what's going on in your thoughts. It doesn't ask you to be any particular way, it simply carries you. But Earth is not alone. If we gently zoom out in our minds, we see that the Sun is encircled by several planets, each with its own style, its own personality. They are all bound to the Sun by gravity, moving in their own orbits like a family of travellers following the same guiding lantern. Closest to the Sun is a tiny world called Mercury. You might imagine it as a little rocky bead, almost like a small dark marble skimming close to a campfire. It has no thick atmosphere to soften the Sun's heat, no protective blanket of air like Earth's. It is a quiet, airless place, scarred by craters where the Sun appears huge in the sky. When you think of Mercury, you don't need to picture much detail. Just a small, fast-moving stone circling close to the warm heart of our solar system, quietly doing its laps. Next comes Venus, often called Earth's sister planet because it is similar in size. But Venus is wrapped in thick clouds like heavy curtains. From space it looks smooth and pale, almost serene. Beneath those clouds, however, the surface is very hot and harsh. For our sleepy purposes, we can think of Venus as a hidden world, a planet that keeps its face carefully veiled. When you look at the evening or morning sky and see a bright, steady star near the horizon, it's often Venus, shining with a quiet, reflected light, like a jewel of softened brilliance. You might imagine it as a mysterious neighbour who prefers to stay behind a curtain, but still sends a gentle glow your way. After Venus, in our orbit around the Sun, we find ourselves back at Earth, our soft island in space. Beyond Earth, there is Mars, the red planet. Mars is smaller than Earth, cold and dry, with thin air and a rusty surface. When we imagine Mars, we might see wide, silent deserts tinted in faint shades of pink and red, soft dunes shaped by the wind, and a quiet sky with a tiny sun. It's a place of stillness where the landscape seems to be holding its breath. Some people dream of visiting Mars one day, but for now it is a distant, patient neighbour watching us from afar. Between Mars and the next major planet, there is a scattered belt of rocky objects, small bodies that never quite came together into a single world. You can think of them as a loose ring of stones and crumbs orbiting the Sun, leftovers from the solar system's early days. They are like the faint echoes of the past, quietly circling without much fuss. Farther out we reach Jupiter, the largest planet. Jupiter is a giant made mostly of gas, with swirling clouds and bands of colour. If Earth is a cosy island, Jupiter is more like a huge swirling storm of atmosphere, a vast globe of hydrogen and helium. But despite its size and its stormy patterns, you can picture Jupiter as a protective big sibling in our solar system. Its strong gravity helps deflect or capture many wandering objects, like comets and asteroids, that might otherwise come closer to the inner planets. In this sense, Jupiter is like a quiet guardian, standing watch at the edge of a neighbourhood, catching incoming debris in its wide, invisible net. Around Jupiter, many moons orbit, dozens of them, each a world in its own right. Some are simple icy spheres, almost like frozen pearls. Others, like Europa, may hold smooth shells of ice over hidden oceans. You can imagine these moons as lanterns circling a gentle giant, each one reflecting the faint sunlight in its own way, each one telling a quieter, smaller story around the big planet. Beyond Jupiter lies Saturn, another gas giant, known for its beautiful rings. Those rings are made of countless particles of ice and rock, ranging from tiny grains to larger fragments, all orbiting together in a thin, flat disk. From far away, they look delicate, almost fragile, like a halo or a soft, luminous scarf wrapped around the planet. When you imagine Saturn, you might picture it as a serene figure, quietly turning in space with its rings glowing softly in the distant sunlight. The rings do not crash or collide in chaos. They maintain their structure through the same gentle pull of gravity that shapes galaxies and stars. Saturn too has many moons, each with its own features. A few of them have thick atmospheres, icy surfaces, mysterious seas of liquid chemicals. You can picture them as a small, intricate system of glowing marbles around a pale, ringed lantern. It's almost like a miniature solar system of its own, nested inside the larger one. Still farther out are Uranus and Neptune, the ice giants. Uranus, a pale, bluish world, rotates on its side compared to the others, as if it is lying down while it orbits the sun. Neptune, deeper and darker blue, is farther still, cold and windswept. These distant planets are quiet, remote, and rarely thought of in daily life. Yet they too are part of the soft, orderly dance around our star. You can imagine them as sleepy sentinels on the outer edges of our solar system, drifting slowly in their wide, cold paths. Beyond even these planets, many other icy bodies orbit at great distances. Comets, dwarf planets, and small frozen remnants from the early days of the sun's formation. When they come closer in their elongated orbits, comets can grow beautiful tails of gas and dust, illuminated by sunlight. But most of the time they remain far out, in the deep cold, waiting in silence. All of these worlds, from the hot surface of Mercury to the icy reaches beyond Neptune, are connected by their shared relationship to the sun. They are like different rooms in the same vast cosmic house. Some are bright and warm, some dim and distant, some mysterious and hidden behind clouds or ice. Together, they make up the place we call home in the universe. And still, even this is only the beginning. Around other stars in other parts of our galaxy, there are planets too, countless ones, discovered and undiscovered, circling their own suns. Astronomers call them exoplanets, simply meaning planets outside our solar system. We find them using sensitive instruments that measure tiny dips in starlight or subtle wobbles in a star's motion. To your mind, that may sound technical, but you can think of it gently, see? A scientist listening very carefully to the music of starlight, noticing when a note is slightly dimmed or shifted, and from that, inferring the presence of an unseen planet. These exoplanets come in many sizes and types. Some are giant, like Jupiter, circling very close to their station, as if hugging it. Others are smaller, perhaps rocky, orbiting at distances where temperatures might allow liquid water to exist. Some travel in slow, wide paths, others race around their stars in a matter of days. The diversity is enormous, and our understanding is still young, like a child first noticing that there are many different kinds of trees in a forest. We can't yet see most of these planets directly, only their influence on their star's light. So they remain mysterious, like silhouettes behind a curtain. But that mystery can be soothing rather than unsettling. You might imagine them as distant, softly glowing beads threaded around faint lanterns, each one carrying its own weather, its own skies, its own landscapes. Some might have thick clouds that always hide the stars. Some might have endless oceans or rocky plains or icy surfaces that reflect their small, pale suns. It's unlikely we'll ever visit most of them, and that's okay. Their role in your story right now is not to be destinations, but lullabies. Gentle reminders that the universe is filled with more worlds than we can count, each quietly going through its own cycles, day and night, warm and cold, storm and calm. If you let your imagination drift, you can take a very slow, sleepy tour of a few of these hypothetical worlds. Maybe you float above a planet with deep purple clouds and a dim red sun shining through, painting everything in soft crimson. Maybe you hover over a world of ice illuminated by a pale blue star, where light is always faint, never harsh. Perhaps you imagine a planet with rings, where looking up at the sky would reveal a grand arch of glowing dust spanning from horizon to horizon, like a luminous bridge. None of these places need to be scientifically precise in your mind. This is not an exam, it's a gentle journey. The purpose is to feel the vastness of possibility, to recognize that your own world is one among many, and to find comfort in that. Because what does it mean to be one small person in such an enormous, varied universe? It can feel overwhelming if we look at it through the lens of importance or comparison. But if we look through the lens of connection, it can feel deeply soothing. The same basic physics that moves planets around stars also guides you as you walk across a room. The same elements that make up distant worlds are in your bones and your breath. You're not outside of the universe, observing it from afar. You're inside it, made of it, carried by it. You're a moment in its long unfolding story. And just as the solar system moves in its orderly paths, you have your own cycles and orbits, your days, your nights, your routines, waking and sleeping, tension and release. Just as Earth needs its dark side and its daylight, you need this time of quiet, this time of closing your eyes and letting your mind loosen its grip. If thoughts come up about tomorrow, about things you did or didn't do today, you can acknowledge them gently, like noticing small clouds passing across the sky of your mind. You don't have to chase them, you don't have to hold them still. They can drift by while you stay lying here, anchored on your own planet, wrapped in blankets, listening to stories about distant worlds. If you're still awake enough to ask questions, you might quietly wonder, on those far-off planets, could there be beings looking up at their own skies, wondering what's out there? Could there be eyes in some distant corner of the galaxy gazing toward the faint glimmer of our sun, asking similar questions? We don't know. And for tonight, that's okay. The not knowing is part of the softness. You don't need all the answers to rest. You can simply hold the possibility like a smooth pebble in your hand. Maybe there are other minds, maybe there aren't. Either way, the universe is gently moving forward, and you are allowed to sleep. Planets, both near and far, remind us that there are many ways for matter to arrange itself, many ways for the story of the cosmos to be written. Rocky, icy, gaseous, hot, cold, warm in between. Some spinning quickly, some slowly, some close to their stars, some far away. This richness of variation means that there is no one right way to be a world. And if you let that thought turn inward, it might whisper that there is also no one right way to be a person. You are allowed to be exactly as you are in this moment. Tired or restless, calm or tangled, focused or drifting. You do not have to line up perfectly with anyone else's orbit. You have your own path, your own timing, and right now your path has brought you here, to this gentle space where you can simply breathe and listen, and when your body decides it's ready, slip into sleep. If sleep is already wrapping its arms around you, you don't need to resist it just to hear the rest of the story. Let it come. Let your thoughts become softer and blur at the edges. Let the planets and stars we've spoken about dissolve into a background glow, like distant city lights seen through fog. If you are still awake, you can rest in this simple image. The sun at the center, burning quietly, the planets circling in their long, slow orbits, moons drifting around them like patient companions, distant exoplanets turning unseen around their own stars all across the galaxy. All of it moving, changing, flowing, and you, a small but genuine part of that, lying here, breathing, letting your mind and body rest. The universe is still there when you close your eyes. The planets continue their paths whether you think about them or not. You don't have to hold the universe in your mind to belong to it. You already do. That belonging is not something you earn, it's something you are. So let yourself drift now, if you haven't already. Let the story of Earth and its neighbouring worlds fade to a gentle hum. There will be time in another calm night to talk about space and time themselves, about the deeper fabric that everything is woven from. For now, you are held by that fabric, cradled in it, without needing to understand it. You can simply rest as the planets continue to turn in their silent, patient dance around the sun. If you're still listening, whether you feel fully awake or barely hanging on to the edge of sleep, you can let yourself soften again for this next stretch. You don't need to remember everything we've talked about before. Maybe pieces of it are already fading, like the way a dream slips away when you try to recall it. You might remember planets drifting around the sun, or the idea of exoplanets circling other stars, or you might just have a vague sense of floating far from everyday concerns. That's more than enough. This is not a test. You're allowed to forget, to drift, to wander. Take a slow breath in without forcing it. Just let the air arrive, and then let it leave again, long and easy. Notice for a moment how your body knows how to breathe without you telling it what to do. While your thoughts listen to stories about the universe, your lungs quietly look after you. The bed holds you. The room shelters you. You are wrapped in layers of safety you don't have to manage or control. We've explored where we are in space, our Earth, our solar system, our galaxy. For a little while now, let's think about something a bit more invisible, something you experience constantly but rarely see. Time. You know the feeling of time passing in your own life. Minutes waiting for something can feel heavy and long. Hours doing something you love can slip by so quickly you hardly notice. Days stack into weeks, and weeks into months, and suddenly a whole season has turned over, like a page in a book. You might remember childhood summers that felt enormous, or specific days that went by in a blur. Time has a texture for you, a feeling. On clocks and screens, time looks simple, measured in neat numbers, seconds, minutes, hours. But your body doesn't really live in numbers, it lives in rhythms. Your heartbeat, your breathing, the cycle of feeling awake and feeling tired, the way light changes through the day, the way your energy rises and dips. These are all small ways of feeling time, like tiny ripples on the surface of a much deeper river. The universe has its own river of time. It began in that strange, hot, simple state we imagined before, and it has been flowing ever since, carrying along the formation of atoms, stars, galaxies, planets, and eventually you, lying here listening now. When we talk about billions of years, those numbers can feel almost meaningless, like trying to count every grain of sand on a beach. You don't need to hold those numbers in your head. Instead, you can sense the idea that time in the universe is vast and patient, far more spacious than the schedules of our days. What happens if you imagine time not as a straight line, but as something you float in, like a very slow-moving, gentle current of water? You're not standing outside of it, watching it go by. You are part of it, carried along moment by moment, breath by breath. You cannot step out of time, but you also don't have to chase it. It moves at its own pace. Scientists have discovered that time and space are deeply connected, woven together into something they call space-time. That word can sound a bit abstract, but you can think of it as the underlying fabric of the universe, the invisible structure within which everything happens. Space tells you where things are. Time tells you when things happen. Space-time is the way the where and the when are linked. A common way to picture this is with a soft fabric like a smooth sheet or a large flexible blanket stretched out. Imagine that this sheet represents space-time. If nothing were on it, it would be flat and even. But as soon as you place something with mass on it, a star, a planet, even a small object, the sheet dips slightly under its weight. The bigger the mass, the deeper the dip. In space, things move along the curves in that fabric. Planets orbit stars because they are following the gentle slopes created by the star's mass in space-time, like marbles rolling in circles around a depression in a soft sheet. Gravity, in this view, is not so much a mysterious pull as it is the tendency of objects to follow the curves that mass creates in space-time. You don't need to picture this perfectly. If the image of a sheet doesn't quite land for you, that's okay. You can simply hold on to the idea that the presence of things, stars, planets, even you, slightly shapes the invisible structure around them. The universe is not an empty backdrop with objects placed onto it. The backdrop itself bends and responds. Time is woven into that fabric as well. Near very massive objects, the flow of time actually runs a little slower compared to far away. On Earth, the difference is tiny, hardly noticeable in daily life, but it's that time is not perfectly uniform everywhere. It's subtly shaped by gravity and motion. In a gentle way, the universe stretches and compresses both space and time depending on where you are and how you move. This might sound strange, even a little dizzying, but remember, you don't have to fully understand it. Let it wash over you like a soft wave of wow that doesn't demand clarity. The important feeling here is that you are living inside something flexible and dynamic. Space-time is not a rigid box. It's more like a soft net or web, gently breathing and curving around the things within it. Right now, you are lying in bed, and your body, though small compared to a star, has mass. That means, in a very subtle way, you're also bending space-time around you. You're not just a guest in the universe. You're one of the things shaping it. The very fact that you exist, that you have weight and presence, means the cosmic fabric acknowledges you, allows itself to be slightly reshaped by you. Even if the effect is tiny, the idea itself can be comforting. You are part of the pattern, not separate from it. Through this fabric as well. The light from your phone or lamp, the light of the moon, the light of distant stars, all of it moves along the curves of space-time. When light passes near a very massive object, its path bends, as if the fabric is guiding it. In that sense, the universe is always tracing out its own shape with beams of light, like gentle fingers running along the folds of a blanket. Every night, when the sky is clear and you can see stars, you're actually looking at this interplay of space and time in action. You are seeing light that has travelled for years, sometimes thousands or millions of years, through the curved fabric of the cosmos, finally arriving at your eyes. You are seeing not just distance, but also duration. The night sky is a picture drawn with both space and time. You too are a creature of space and time. Your memories belong to time. Your body belongs to space. Your life is a long, detailed path through space-time, from the moment you came into being to this quiet moment now. And someday, many moments from now, that path will gently end, and the matter that makes you will spread out again into the world, into the universe, to be reused in the other forms. That might sound somber, but in this context, it can also feel like a kind of belonging. The universe lends you its atoms for a while, lets them dance as you, and then welcomes them back. The atoms in your body have been on long journeys. The hydrogen in the water inside you likely dates back to the early universe, formed not long after that soft beginning. Heavier elements, like carbon and oxygen and iron, were forged in the hearts of stars and scattered when those stars changed, sometimes dramatically, near the ends of their lives. The building blocks of you were born in extreme places, in stellar furnaces, in ancient explosions that happened long before Earth existed. You are quite literally made of star material. The phrase star stuff is not just poetic, it's a simple, gentle truth. When you breathe out, the carbon dioxide you release contains carbon atoms that will drift into plants, into soil, into other living things, continuing their journey. When you drink water, those molecules have been clouds, rivers, raindrops, maybe even part of glaciers or deep underground streams long before they reached your cup. You are part of these cycles, taken in and let go, over and over. It can be strangely comforting to see yourself this way, not as something isolated, but as a temporary pattern in the universe's matter and energy. Your body is like a wave forming briefly on the surface of a vast cosmic ocean. The wave appears, has its shape, and then folds back into the water. The water remains, the ocean continues. The wave was never separate from it, not really. In your daily life, you may feel alone sometimes, or different, or uncertain. But on this deeper level, you have always been connected. The iron in your blood connects you to stars that lived billions of years ago. The oxygen in your lungs connects you to forests and oceans and every creature that breathes. The warmth in your body comes from the sun, which in turn draws its energy from fusion in its heart, guided by the laws of space-time. Even as you lie in a dark room, you are glowing faintly in infrared, radiating a little bit of heat back into the world, part of the ongoing exchange of energy. You might think of small, everyday moments as reflections of bigger cosmic patterns. The cycle of your breathing mirrors cycles in nature. Tides rising and falling, seasons returning, stars brightening and dimming. The way you wake and sleep each curve echoes the rhythm of a spinning planet turning into the light and back into the dark. Consider the seasons. The tilt of Earth's axis, combined with its orbit around the sun, brings about the gentle shifts you feel over the year. Warmer, brighter days, cooler, longer nights, leaves budding, flourishing, falling. These changes can feel purely local, something happening in your own climate, in your own city or countryside. But they are, in fact, a direct expression of the geometry of our planet's path through space. The pattern of your wardrobe, your mood, your daily routines over a year is linked to celestial mechanics, to the way Earth leans and travels in the sun's light. Or think about the moon. Its phases, thin crescent, half full and back again, have been a quiet clock for humans for a very long time. Its slow cycles mark months, affect tides, and contribute to the rhythm of life on Earth. When you look at the moon, even if you only glimpse it occasionally, you are seeing a world lit by sunlight, reflecting it to you in changing shapes, like a softly turning lamp in the sky. These connections between your ordinary experiences and the workings of the cosmos can be small, but they weave a gentle thread between your life and the universe at large. You can follow that thread whenever you like, or not at all. It's enough just to know that it's there. Patterns repeat across different scales too. The branching of trees, the spreading of rivers, the crackle of lightning, the delicate pathways of blood vessels and nerves in your body, the clustering of galaxies. Each of these can show similar shapes and structures, not identical but echoing each other, like melodies played in different keys. Spirals in seashells and spirals in galaxies, meandering curves in streams and in the paths of drifting particles. The universe seems to enjoy certain forms, certain ways of arranging things. You don't need to memorize which pattern appears where. Just let the idea drift through, that the same underlying principles of physics and mathematics can create beauty both in something you can hold in your hand and in something larger than you can ever see. A shell, a snowflake, a cloud, a hurricane, a galaxy. They are all expressions of the same fundamental ingredients interacting in different ways. Sometimes a quiet wow can arise when you truly feel that. Not a loud, startling awe, but a soft, deep sense of wonder. The kind that makes you breathe it out a little slower and feel a bit more at peace, the kind that says, even if I don't understand everything, I'm part of something intricate and beautiful. Right now, even as you lie still, countless processes are unfolding in and around you. Neutrinos, tiny particles that barely interact with matter, are streaming through your body by the trillions every second, most of them passing through as if you weren't there. Photons, little packets of light, are bouncing around in your room, reflecting off the walls, the furniture, your skin. Atoms in your body are vibrating. Molecules are breaking apart and reforming in your cells. On larger scales, air currents move outside, clouds drift overhead, Earth continues its spin, the solar system orbits the galaxy. You don't need to track any of that. Your mind can't possibly follow it all. But it can rest in the knowledge that it's happening, that you are folded into a vast choreography of motion and change, even when you feel still. Sometimes, when life feels small or constrained, it can help to remember this. Not to diminish your personal world, but to give it a kind of spacious backdrop. Your concerns, your hopes, your fears, they are real, they matter. But they exist within this immense context, supported by it. You're not floating in emptiness with your worries. You're resting in a universe that has been unfolding for billions of years. That gave rise to you and everything you love. What does it mean to belong to that universe? It doesn't mean you have to be important on some grand scale or achieve something gigantic. The sun doesn't ask the planets to justify their existence. It simply shines, and they simply orbit. In the same way, you don't have to prove your worth to the cosmos. The fact that you are here, breathing, feeling, wondering, is already a kind of quiet miracle. The universe has taken atoms forged in ancient stars, arranged them into molecules, assembled those molecules into cells, those cells into tissues and organs, and from that, somehow, consciousness has emerged. You, a being who can feel a blanket against their skin, who can be tired, who can be soothed by a soft voice in the dark, who can find comfort in learning about the very processes that made them. You are the universe looking back at itself in a small local way, not the only way perhaps, but your way. Your point of view, your story. If you feel insignificant sometimes, that's understandable. The scales are enormous, and it's easy to feel tiny. But tiny does not mean meaningless. A single candle is small compared to the night, but it still gives light to the things around it. A single breath is small compared to a lifetime, but it still keeps you alive. Your presence here and now is like that. Small on cosmic scales, but profoundly real in the space you occupy, in the lives you touch, in the inner world you carry. As you listen, you might notice a softening in your chest, or a little bit of tension releasing in your shoulders, or maybe you still feel tight. And that's okay too. Your body unwinds at its own pace. Just as stars form slowly, just as planets cool and settle over millions of years, your nervous system has its own timing. You don't have to force relaxation. You can simply allow it to find you the way sleep eventually does when conditions are kind. If your thoughts start to wander now, you might find them moving between the very small and the very large. A memory from your day, a feeling from long ago, an image of a spiral galaxy turning slowly, or of a seashell in your hand. Let them come and go without gripping them tightly. Thoughts are like clouds and you are the sky. They pass through, the sky remains. You may notice that the ideas we're exploring are becoming less technical and more about feelings and images. That's intentional. We are gently shifting from detailed explanation into something a little simpler, a little more repetitive, a little more dreamlike. Not quite fully there yet, but moving in that direction, like walking down a dim hallway toward a cozy room. Soon we'll let go of most of the facts and just float with the soft imagery of the universe. drifting stars, glowing dust, quiet planets, and distant lights. For now, it's enough to rest in this sense of belonging, of connection. You're part of a universe that has space for both galaxies and small, quiet human hearts, for both the bending of space-time and the gentle weight of a blanket, for both ancient starlight and the soft glow of a bedside lamp. It's all one fabric, one story with many chapters. You don't need to read them all tonight. You don't need to stay awake to the end. You can let your eyes, if they're not already closed, become heavier. Let your breathing stay slow. Let the story continue without you for a while. If your mind decides it's time to drift away, the universe will go on unfolding one soft story at a time. And you, for this moment, are allowed to simply rest inside it. If you're still awake with me, even just a little, you can notice that we've gently travelled a long way together tonight. We started from a tiny, warm beginning of the universe, drifted through the birth of stars, wandered among galaxies, visited planets close to home and far away, and touched the idea of time and the fabric that holds everything. You don't need to remember any of it. You don't need to hold the story in your mind. It's enough that your body has been here, breathing, while the words move softly around you like a quiet current. Now, we'll let the ideas become even simpler. We'll let the details blur and soften the way distant lights blur when your eyes are heavy. No more diagrams, no more complicated shapes to imagine. Just gentle impressions like brush strokes of calm across the dark. You might start by noticing your breath again. You don't have to change it. Just notice that it's there, faithful and steady. In and out, a small rhythm inside a much larger one. As you breathe, you can imagine that each inhale gathers a little bit of quiet from the universe, and each exhale lets go of a little bit of tension from your day. With every breath, the balance shifts a tiny bit more toward rest. Let the universe now shrink down into something very simple in your mind. Perhaps it is just a dark sky scattered with soft dots of light. No labels, no names, just gentle glows floating in a deep velvety blue. Some of the lights are brighter, like small pearls. Some are faint, like shy fireflies. Between them, the darkness is not empty or frightening. It is soft, like a blanket that goes on forever. You might imagine that all of space has become a quiet room, dimly lit by tiny lanterns. The lanterns are stars and galaxies and distant worlds. But you don't have to think of them that way. They are just warm points of comfort, spread out so there is always enough darkness for resting, and always enough light for a little wonder. If you like, picture yourself lying exactly where you are, but with the ceiling gently fading away. Above you, the roof softens into transparency, like mist dissolving in the morning. Beyond it, the sky opens and the stars are visible, even if in reality there are clouds or city lights. This is your inner sky, the one you can visit at any time. In this inner sky, the stars are not far or hard to reach. They feel close in a strange, gentle way. You could almost lift your hand and trace your fingers through them, as if they were glowing dust suspended in water. As you breathe, they seem to pulse very softly, brightening as you inhale, dimming slightly as you exhale, like they are breathing along with you. Now, imagine that with each out-breath, your body grows a little heavier in the bed. Your muscles let go a bit more. Your shoulders sink. Your legs sink. Your hands become pleasantly lazy, not wanting to move. You're not falling or drifting away. You're being held, as if the mattress beneath you is a gentle shore, and you are a small boat resting in still water. At the same time, in your imagination, a lighter part of you begins to float upward, not in a sudden rush, but as if you're made of mist, rising very slowly. You can be both at once, heavy and safe in your bed, and light and floating in your mind. Your body stays here grounded and warm. Your awareness drifts upward like a quiet balloon. You float past the ceiling, past the walls, into the cool night air above your home. The lights of your room are dim, the world below wrapped in shadow. Roofs and streets and trees slide away beneath you as you rise a little higher. If that image feels too strong, you can bring it closer. Imagine only going just above your house, hovering gently like a dandelion seed caught in a breeze. Whatever feels easiest. From there, the city or town becomes a pattern of faint lights and darker spaces. Cars, if there are any, are just tiny moving dots. Houses are soft rectangles of glow. You rise slowly past them, past the tallest buildings, until even the tallest things are beneath you like toys on a carpet. You don't feel cold. The air around you is exactly the temperature you like. You don't feel any wind or strain. You're just hanging in space, supported by something you don't need to name. Higher still, and now you can see the curve of the Earth if you wish. Blue, white, green, brown, softly lit by the distant sun. Clouds swirl like slow brushstrokes of white. Oceans glimmer with reflected light. You can imagine night on one side, with cities glowing like constellations turned upside down on the surface, and day on the other side, bathed in golden brightness. From this perspective, your worries and tasks shrink to a tiny point. They're still real, but they are very small, like grains of sand on a whole beach. You don't have to solve them tonight. You can visit them later, when you're rested and steady. Right now, they sit far below you, quiet and distant, as the planet turns and carries them gently forward. You continue to rise slowly and effortlessly, as if gravity has loosened its grip on your thoughts. The Earth becomes smaller, a glowing marble now, wrapped in a thin halo of atmosphere. The moon might appear nearby, a pale companion, its surface etched with softly lit craters and plains. The two of them, Earth and Moon, dance together around their shared center of gravity, turning in a slow, graceful waltz. Farther away, your view widens to the entire orbit of the planets. You might trace their paths as faint rings of light around the sun, like ripples frozen on a pond. You don't need to count them. Just know that each orbit is a path traveled over and over, quietly, regularly, without hurry. From here, the solar system is like a small mobile hanging in the darkness. The sun at the center, bright and calm, planets circling like beads on invisible strings, moons circling those planets, tiny and loyal. The scale is huge, but in your mind's eye it can be very peaceful, like a piece of cosmic art slowly turning in a gallery of night. Then the sun itself becomes just another star as you drift even farther out. Its light shrinks to a star among stars, one more point in the pattern. Around you, the Milky Way stretches, a great river of light and dust. You're not rushing through it. You're simply wrapped in its soft glow. Swirls of stars form gentle, luminous clouds. Dark lanes of interstellar dust trace slow curves, like ink lines across an old painting. Everything feels very quiet here. No sound of engines, no buzzing machines. Just the sense of vastness and stillness, punctuated by the distant twinkle of stars. If there were a sound, it might be like a very low, constant hum, too deep to hear, the kind of sound you feel more than you listen to, as if space itself is humming a lullaby. You might gently drift past a nebula, one of those star-forming regions we talked about earlier. In your imagination, it can be any color you like, soft blues and pinks, gentle greens and purples, swirling together like watercolors in a bowl. Within its wisps, new stars are being born, but you don't need to think about the details. You simply float through it as if passing through a delicate, glowing cloud. its light brushing your skin like a faint, warm breeze. The stars around you are at all stages of their lives. Some are very young, bright and bluish, burning with energy. Others are older, more golden, stable and calm like our sun. Some are small and dim, embers of what they once were, fading slowly and gracefully. Together they form a quiet, ageless community of light. As you float, you may feel your thoughts becoming slower. Maybe some of the words I'm saying barely land, slipping past like leaves in a stream. That's all right. This journey doesn't require your full attention. It is designed to be soft enough that you can let go partway through. If you find yourself missing sections or forgetting how you got from one image to another, that is a sign you are already drifting into the edges of sleep. Let's make the images even simpler now. Imagine just one star. Not a specific one, not our sun or any named star, just a single point of warm light in the darkness. Around it, like a faint halo, is a gentle glow. Everything else falls away. No planets, no galaxies, no numbers, just one comforting light, hanging in a sea of softness. As you breathe in, you might imagine that light growing just a little brighter, as if acknowledging you. As you breathe out, you might imagine it staying steady, watching over you. You can think of it as a friend or a guardian, or nothing at all, just a point of warmth that exists for no reason other than to be there. Now imagine that inside you, in the center of your chest, there is another small light. Not a harsh or intense light, but something like the glow of a candle or a distant star. It doesn't flicker wildly, it just shines softly on and on. With every breath, that inner light and the outer star feel a little more connected, like two lanterns glowing in the same night. Maybe, with each inhale, some of the calm from that distant star flows toward your chest, feeding your inner light. With each exhale, some of your tension leaves, rising away, dissolving into the sky. Your inner light remains, untouched by worry, steady and quiet. You're a small light in a universe of lights, not the only one, not the brightest one, but entirely unique in how you feel and think and dream. That uniqueness is quietly precious, even if nobody else is there to witness it in this moment. You don't have to do anything to earn it. You don't have to be awake to preserve it. It simply is, woven into the way your atoms have arranged themselves for a while. We can let the universe fade even more now, until it is just a feeling, like an embrace. You don't need to see stars or planet or nebulae. You can just feel that you are lying in something larger than yourself, something that will keep existing whether you are awake or asleep, something that doesn't need anything from you right now. It supports you, includes you, and gives you the space to rest. If thoughts about tomorrow try to crowd in, you can imagine gently placing them into a small soft box in your mind. The box is lined with something plush like velvet or cotton. You set your thoughts inside plans, worries, lists, questions, and close the lid very gently, and the box is not locked. You can open it again in the morning, but for now, it sits safely on a shelf out of the way. Those thoughts are still there, still important, but they don't need to rattle around your mind tonight. Around the shelf, the room of your inner world grows dimmer and quieter. The only thing that remains lit is that small light in your chest, and perhaps the faint glimmer of that distant star you were imagining earlier. Both are steady, both are patient, both are in no hurry at all. Outside, the real night continues. The planet turns. Somewhere the sun is shining on another part of Earth. Somewhere clouds are forming and dissolving. Somewhere waves are rolling onto shores in a rhythm as timeless as the universe itself. All of that happens without asking for your help. You're allowed to step out of participation for a while. You're allowed to sleep. You might feel the edge of sleep as a kind of gentle swaying, a looseness in your thoughts, a sense that words are starting to blur. Sometimes, just before sleep, images can become strange or vivid or floaty. That's okay. That's your mind starting to dream. You can welcome it, like a visitor who has come to take you to another landscape for a while. You're safe to follow it. If you are still a little awake, I'll offer a few more quiet reminders, like soft pillows for your thoughts to land on. You are a piece of the universe. The atoms that make you are ancient and have travelled far. They came together for a while to form you, to give you this viewpoint, this life. That alone is extraordinary, even on the days that feel ordinary. You belong here, not because of what you accomplish or how perfectly you live, but because you are made of the same fabric as everything else. You are as naturally part of the universe as a star or a tree or a stone. Your existence is not an accident in a way that needs to be corrected. It is a natural outcome of the same laws that shape galaxies and light. You can rest. It is okay to rest. The universe has been unfolding for billions of years without your constant effort, and it will continue gently turning while you sleep. Your worth is not measured by how much you stay awake, or how many thoughts you hold in your mind at once. In sleep, your body heals, your brain resets, your heart gets a break. Sleep is your own way of aligning with the deep, quiet rhythms of nature. If you find yourself worrying that you are not falling asleep fast enough, you can let that worry go too. Sleep is not a task to be forced. It is more like a tide coming in. You cannot pull the tide up the shore by willpower. You can only lie on the sand, listen to the waves, and allow the water to reach you when it's ready. In the same way, you can lie here, listen to these words, feel your breath, and allow sleep to arrive in its own time. Even if you remain awake longer than you hoped, you are still resting. Your body is still more at ease than it would be if you were up and moving. Your eyes are closed, your muscles are supported, your mind is at least partially distracted from the worries of the day. This time is not wasted. It is a gentle pause, a small harbour between the days. In a little while the words will fade, or you will stop noticing them. Your dreams will take over, weaving together scenes from your memories with patterns of nonsense and fragments of feeling. Your brain will sort and file and discard and rewire, doing its quiet nighttime work. You don't have to supervise any of it. You can simply let go. This soft story begins to trail off. You can imagine the universe around you dimming like a theatre after a show, not abruptly, not with a jolt, but gradually lights lowering one by one. The stars in your mind's sky grow a bit softer, a bit more distant. The inner light in your chest remains, a faint, comforting glow. The rest becomes a cozy darkness, the kind that invites deep, peaceful sleep. I am still here for a few more breaths, a presence in the background, like a friend sitting quietly in the next room, making sure everything is calm while you drift off. I don't need anything from you. You don't have to respond, you don't have to pay attention. You can just keep breathing, slowly and gently, feeling the bed hold you, feeling the night surround you. If you ever need this feeling again, you can return to it. The universe will still be there, the stars will still be burning, the planets will still be turning, and there will always be room for you to lie down, close your eyes, and listen to their soft stories. For now, though, the story can rest. You can rest. You are safe. You are held. You are part of a vast, quiet universe that is perfectly content to watch over you while you sleep. Good night, for as long as you need.